everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Alexandra Chando. I am the festival manager for Mammoth Film Festival. I am also the executive director of Her Voice. First, I would like to say thank you to the festival for providing such a platform for female filmmakers. I'm blown away by the talented filmmakers and the talented community that we have built with this festival, and especially through Her Voice. I am so appreciative and grateful to continue to create space for female filmmakers. So thank you all for being here. I want to first introduce Nadine Crocker.
Woo! Yeah!
Woo! Nadine is the writer, director, star of Continue. She also is launching a nonprofit called Continue On. They have so graciously helped to sponsor this event.
So I am here with the film Continue, which is based on my true story of surviving a suicide attempt. My entire mission for this film is to save lives from suicide and elevate mental health. And so I created the Continue On organization, and our entire mission is to continue to elevate mental health and suicide prevention storytelling, as well as my ultimate goal is to create a subsidy that brings mental health services to underprivileged youth. I truly believe that we all deserve access to the care that we need during times of struggle, and I want to help give that to people. So continueonorganization.com is the website. You can go directly there. We'll also be posting on the 5th a GoFundMe that you can post on that as well. We have continueon.org, which is our social media handle. You can, it's pretty much all I post about as well. So you could go to Nadine Crocker and you can go straight to the organization there as well. So yeah.
Amazing, thank you. Next to Nadine, we have Shelley Hennig, who is the star of Flux, which premiered last night, for those of you who were able to get a ticket, as it was a sold-out show. We have Bella Thorne, director, actor, writer, producer. Her short film, Paint Her Red, showed this morning. We also have Rachel Bilson, who is an actor, producer, podcast host, and producer of Continue. And next to Rachel is Olivia Allen, also actor, producer, podcast host with Rachel, and producer of Continue. Fabulous group we have this year. I'm very excited. So let's get into it. I start this panel every year with the same question, but I think it's a very important one. I think what we value is a compass for our lives, and I think that goes along with how we choose projects, how we continue in our careers. So the biggest question that I always ask is, what is your why? And anybody can start, and this could be very conversational. However, anybody who wants to jump in, it doesn't have to be down the line.
Okay.
Yeah, Nadine.
Yeah, everyone looks at me.
But take it, Nadine.
Okay, I guess I'm going. I mean, for me, it's impact. I feel so grateful to be here, to have this life, to get to direct films. Honestly, I think as a little girl, I didn't know that that would be an option for me. And the fact that this is my path now is like so surreal, and I feel so incredibly lucky. But I want to use my voice for change. So for me, all of my projects, while you wouldn't know that, I don't like to spoon feed, they all have a bigger message or impact, and all of my films have a level of charity. So with Continue, I took all my points from writing it and gave it to already existing nonprofits. And with all of my films, I try and choose an aspect of charity to donate to that goes with the messaging. So impact.
I think why I always do it, especially all my projects definitely involve, yes, a message. I think that when it comes to filmmaking, and especially growing up as a little girl, there wasn't stuff that I could watch that made me feel seen or feel heard. And I think that filmmaking is so amazing because culturally and socially it can change so many things and set a new level of standard. And I think that throughout filmmaking, that's always been the one that's inspired me, and kind of making people question. I think that those movies are fun. When I get out of a movie, I don't want to just be like, oh yeah, no, that was good. I wanted to create a conversation and a debate.
There's such a movement with women, you know, supporting women, and to be able to support it in any way, whether you're in it or you're writing it or directing it or producing it, I think it's beautiful, and I'm so happy it's here and it's alive and well, and to feel seen, to not feel alone, and to feel moved. I think that's why we're here.
Yeah, I remember as a kid, I used to cry at sad movies, and it wasn't because the content was sad. It was because I wanted to make people feel what they were making me feel. And I had this thing where I was like, I need to do that somehow. I need to affect people inside.
I just wanted to make people cry.
I just want to make people cry. So when I met Nadine, but it's true. It is. It's like whether it's a laugh, whether it's a cry. If I could be a hand in that in any way of making someone feel a little less alone and a little bit more connected, I think that that's, you know, the remedy to addiction, depression, anxiety, all these beautiful feelings most of us humans touch upon. I think that through the arts we get to kind of hold each other's hand through that and connect, really.
I just like to entertain. It's pretty simple for me. I'm so inspired by you ladies, by the way. I kind of came into this a little later, like I didn't grow up. I mean, I knew who Zach Morris was on Saved by the Bell, and that's pretty much it. There was a family tragedy. My dance teacher stepped in, put me in a beauty pageant. I won. I get an acting scholarship. It's free. I go to New York. I go to my first day of acting class, and I'm like, this is the weirdest shit I have ever been a part of, but I'm obsessed. And so for me, it's been about, I feel like I have like a chip on my shoulder about the craft. I didn't know who Meryl Streep was. I mean, I had so much to learn, so I've put a lot of eggs in the craft basket, and I really pay attention to the artists that I work with, and I just love learning the craft and watching you ladies make movies.
Before we kind of dive into the deeper stuff, I want to go individually because everyone has a project here, and I love that. So I'm going to start again with Nadine. You're next to me. You're in the hot seat.
I'm okay with it.
Continue is a very personal project, and I think in general it's just a challenge for directors to also be acting in their own projects, just to kind of find that balance and to juggle it. But with material that you had and the emotional scenes that you had, how did you juggle directing and also the emotional availability that you needed to have? Was it challenging for you too because it was so close to the bone?
Honestly, I will say that I was able to do this because of my collaborators, my crew, my cast, my cinematographer. I mean, Cy Turnbull was my partner, and he worked for years for free. And we shortlisted this film so that we knew it inside and out, because I knew I wouldn't be able to be there for every single setup. I was in the makeup chair. I was getting fake scars. I was getting blood. I was getting, so we had to really know, and we found photos for everything. And so we just worked really closely. But I will say, I think one of the most beautiful things about wearing every, silliness, was that I almost didn't have time to think. I care so deeply about what I make and what I create and what we're doing here, and I wanted it to help people. And so I think it was so helpful that I would be setting up the shots and all of that, and then it was okay, we have to go, and I'd say my prayer, let it touch whoever it's supposed to touch, and then boom, and there was no time to think about it, and I knew I only had 1 to 2 takes. Literally, we had no days, low money, so you just have to go. And it was almost like the best gift, because I didn't get to do the overthinking thing, So, but my true answer is the people that were with me in making it. They were incredible. I feel so lucky for each person that was on my team.
Rachel and Olivia, as producers, how do you choose which projects to jump on board?
Anything Nadine does. We came on a little later, but we're very good friends with Nadine, and we're such believers in, well, first of all, her. She's a fucking beast, you guys. Like, there's nothing she can't do. But to support her story and her storytelling, it was just a no-brainer. Like, we wanted to do whatever we could to get involved and get the word out and help with Continue On, the organization. If you can do anything in this world to maybe make an impact or help get a word out, or anything you can do to better anything, it's just a beautiful thing. So it was just like, okay, Nadine, what next?
The film Continue, it was a no-brainer from the beginning with Nadine. And then I, in the process, lost a best friend to suicide. Then it became so much bigger than the film. It became about the nonprofit. It became about the message. It became about something very altogether human that has nothing to do with film. It's just, it's a huge message. And outside of that, then we have some other really ridiculous things that we pick that are not, they don't have a message, and they're just fun that we just want to collaborate and do and make happen, that are completely opposite. They don't have, a great purpose, but we just think that
But they'll make you laugh.
It'll make us laugh, and we're like, that's a good time. Let's do that.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any sort of formula for us in choosing the project, as much as like, does it speak to us in one way or another?
Bella, how did you know when the right time was to start directing? What was that impetus for you?
I think I've always wanted to direct. One of the unfortunate parts about being an actor is being really just a tool in someone else's toolbox. And that can sometimes be really disheartening when you just cry your eyes out and you work your ass off and you're just so emotionally spent afterwards. And then you realize that most of that work is on the editing room floor. I was just like, how much am I getting from this? Like, am I happy? I really had to turn around and be like, just give myself a good look in the mirror and like, how much do you really want this? Because emotionally, you're like at level here. And for a long time, I wanted to direct, but I was always a much better writer. Writing, I think, is definitely the way that I get to my truth-telling. And I just started out any way I could, picking up a camera, whether it was with my friends, music videos, so many music videos, helping other people produce shorts, like really just kind of getting into it. And then, I was just like, okay, you gotta actually put your, you got to just do it now, and you got to do it seriously, and kind of just stop fucking around with it. And that's when I started making shorts.
I love that.
Thanks.
And can relate. I think we all can. Yeah. Shelley, with your role in Flux, oftentimes there were two of you. How did you dig into the craft to prepare, and what was that preparation process like? And was it similar to other projects that you've done as far as preparation goes?
I think it was all the years prior that led me to be able to do what I had to do in Flux. What I had the privilege of doing in Flux. What I loved about this script was a little selfish. I was just looking at it as an actress going like, I get to do so many things in this one film. And it's not every day that we're like, I say use and abuse, and I mean that in a positive way. So I read it and I was like, I have to get this. But I'm not sure I could have done it, 10 years ago. So I'd say it's all the years leading up to this. And then it was actually the first experience I've had where I've worked so closely with the director, Brendan Murphy. I had a huge responsibility in this film. And that meant that for the first time, there were a lot more conversations with the director. And that was kind of new for me. I kind of just like show up, do my thing, and then go home. But it kind of changed the game for me. And it got me ready for my next project, which was a series. And I had a huge responsibility on that, wearing a lot of hats, but as an actor. And I just love that it was multi-genre, and I played like 5 different characters, and that's like a dream come true. I'm not sure I'm amazing at all of them, but we had an amazing time.
You were pretty amazing.
I was not fishing.
I didn't think you were, but you were amazing. So I want to know, is there a time or was there a time where you felt like you've had to overcompensate to prove yourself in order to feel like you have a seat at the table?
Every day as a woman.
I know what you mean.
And now we're going to get into it.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of the self-deprecating and all of that stuff has been a tool I've always used in the industry to be like, make a joke or whatever, but it is real. And you do have to constantly prove yourself. It's like, oh, she can't do that. Oh, she's not funny. Oh, she's this. And there's such an opinion of you. So you're constantly showing up and having to prove yourself, no matter where you are in your career.
And it's unfortunate because it doesn't even feel like the opinion of you it's not of you. It's of all these boxes of other people that has been morphed together to fit the box you're supposed to fit in. And so no wonder why people end up being like, I don't fit anywhere.
Yeah.
No, of course not, because none of these boxes are really attainable or really human or really make anybody feel seen or feel heard.
I had every rep basically who wouldn't read my writing. They're like, you're a pretty young actress. They would never. And I'm gonna be real and say something that I don't tell most people. I had to get dropped by all my reps to finally go, fuck this. I'm not waiting for anyone to give me this opportunity anymore. I'm gonna do it myself. I had a 2-week-old baby in my arms and everyone dropped me. And I was like, I'm done fucking waiting. And even then, even after I've proved myself with Continue, which gave me the opportunity for Desperation Road and all of those things, I go in with a very distinct vision and they'll try and squash me. And they'll be like, well, you're not Fincher, you're not Nolan. And I'm like, not fucking yet.
Yeah.
Not yet. And so they constantly want to tell us what we can and can't do, and they do not like the fact that I have a very distinct vision. They're like, no, you need, oh, yeah, you have a vision, but this is what we say. And I'm like, oh, well, that's great. I'm very distinct with my vision. I can be malleable with the plan. I can adjust when I need to if we don't have enough hours and enough days, but that's my job. But we're all here for one vision. And as the director, I think that should be mine, not every guy that huddled together and was like, no, but this is the better way. And I'm like,
or this is the way that works, that we know for a fact works. So
Yeah.
That's one of the most annoying things that I ever hear. I think is so annoying. And as a woman, where you don't get that so much when you're a man, you just don't get that many questions and that much debate when it comes to something that you want to do. And I always say, I'm like, yeah, but think about the best movies of our time. Had that ever been done before? No, it hadn't. That's why somebody's got to take the chance. Somebody's got to make that big first step. And it's unfortunate when it's very hard to find people that believe in kind of sometimes you gotta risk it to get the biscuit.
I have never heard that.
I did hear that. Yeah.
Did you make it up? Have you heard it before? That's so good.
You guys.
Also, to me, my biggest obstacle has always been, it's not a good time for you because of. And I started acting when I was a kid, and they're like, you're too tan, you're too this, you need to fix your this. So then I'd go do all that, and then they're like, okay, but you're too old now. Or it's not a good time for women of your age. It's just really not gonna happen right now. And so hearing that for so long, my biggest challenge has been okay, if I can put that aside and now create and say, forget the narrative, I don't have to buy into that, I can create, write, produce, do all of these things to create my own opportunities. Now the hard part is those narratives that are in my brain.
Yeah.
And how do I stop listening to that? Even with this, I'm like, I shouldn't do the panel, you guys just do it. I don't know if I should have a seat. And then I was like, wait a minute, that's old programming. You deserve to be where you're at. And so it's not even just external sources not believing or not supporting. It's what that does to our internal guidance gets a little skewed.
I also think too, it comes with, we're all kind of hyphenate, and I think one of the things that I am kind of dealing with right now is being seen as an actor for so long and then starting to direct and not being seen as a filmmaker. And I think that is something too, as Bella was saying, and Nadine about your reps. I mean, I think that's a big thing as well.
Yeah, they want to see you as what you've presented, and there's no changing that. So what is life about if it's not for changing and trying new things and, I mean...
And being authentic.
And being authentic,
Right.
exactly. But you know, the truth is like, I always say this to my husband, I was like, I'm pretty sure there was a part of me, I used to like say, I'm like, I have no interest in directing. That's because I did not believe anyone would give me the opportunity, so I was I was scared to even admit how badly I wanted it. And then you hear, well, that's not selling now, and it's not this, and people don't want to talk about dramas, and fuck, I mean, no one wants to talk about mental health.
Yeah.
No one does. That's all I heard. All I heard. And then I have some twists and turns. If you go see the movie after this, you will see that I broke some rules, and they're like, no one will like that. Well, I remember as a kid watching The Sixth Sense, Fight Club, so many movies that broke the rules, and went, I want to fucking do that. So I don't agree with you. And that is the hardest part of being like, okay, am I going to believe this crazy voice inside of me that is like, they're wrong, they're wrong, they're wrong, and I'm just going to keep going, or am I going to listen to them? And the hard part is, I think for a lot of years, we listen to them.
Yeah.
Until finally we don't. And now, and that's not to say, I don't want to sound like an egomaniac, like I don't listen to any, no, we have collaborators, we have to have people we trust, we, you know, the best idea wins, all of those things, but, you know, that's not to take away from our voice, you know?
I think even right there, even having to say like, and I don't want to sound like an egomaniac. That's like again, it's the programming that's built in that it's so hard to get away from.
It is. There's so many people out there. Like I have someone in my life. They were like, "You're producing now?" LOL. Like that was the text, and I was like,
Real life.
yeah, no, like there's people around you that just want to put you down, and it's obviously projecting or whatever it is, but it's this constant narrative that you're being told or it's coming at you, and you have to be and it's so hard, and it has to do with mental health, about being centered and like confident and sure and just like going after what you believe. And Nadine, like the best example of all of it, just seeing what she has created and just done what she believed in. And I know you have too, and I know you have too, and I'm learning about you, and it's amazing. But it's true, and you just have to like remember that, because there's so many people out there that will put you down.
That is why these tables and
They're
meeting
important.
you guys and getting to talk to each other and women elevating other women and all of us joining together and not playing into that narrative of fucking competition or whatever it is. It's like, we all can have a seat at a table and we can all help each other. And, you know, like some of the biggest blessings in my life happened to me because another filmmaker was like, I want to introduce you to this person. And that person that they introduced me to changed my life. So again, it's like, there is room for all of us. We don't have to be in competition, but especially within women, because most of my life, I didn't have women in my life. I didn't have friends. Like Olivia knows, I'm like, in my 30s, I'll cry and just be like, I can't imagine life without women in my life anymore. And I just like, it's like, I'm so sad it took all the way to my 30s to finally have females in my life, because I mean, it's a godsend. We are some of the only people who know what each other goes through, who can understand, and also who can pep talk you the fuck up when you need it, you know? Because like, that's even what we were talking about. Like, it's hard to watch ourselves, or it's hard to, it's like, we've had doubt or, squashing ingrained for so long that I am really good at doing it to myself,
I like that you said old programming. I mean, that's where I'm at, is like trying to decipher, is it old programming, or am I still kind of up against the same, feeling? And I don't know. I don't know the answer. Maybe it's both. I love that my therapist says both can be true. That was a new one for me. I really like to pick a lane. But if we didn't have that thing that we're talking about, that as women we feel like we have to prove ourselves, look at what we've all created thus far with that on top of us. And I think so much about, if that were gone, what the fuck else would we be doing and creating? As in, like, the sky's the limit, So I get sad thinking about this subject, because I feel like I'm working so hard in my head at times when maybe other people don't have to, and other people, I mean men. But I do love men.
I love you though.
If it's only women lifting up women, like that's why it's so important that all you guys are here, because like we like really need your help. We won't get to where we should be and how we should be treated if the only people are the women that are sticking up for women. It's
Well, yeah, and there are so many men who also look at all the men in this audience who are lifting women up and who are, opening doors and mentoring and all of those things. So switching gears again, I know for me, when I'm working, I'm a very different person because I'm busy and I have tasks and I have a schedule, but oftentimes the hardest part, talk about mental health, the hardest part is when I'm not working and finding the structure and finding kind of the why of getting through my day. So what, if anything, do you do in order to kind of keep afloat?
I'm going to tell you guys something really simple that brings me so much joy. At night, before I go to bed, I set my coffee maker with the grounds and the water. So when I wake up, I just have to push a button. And that little simple thing that I do every single night brings me so much joy. You're welcome.
Happy for you.
I also have a kid, so that keeps me busy.
I have to work really hard for my mental health personally.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot that goes into keeping me sane, and I think rituals part of that, like exercising, getting endorphins, connection on all the levels. It's hard to keep a daily routine with 2 kids and a house and all of that kind of stuff, but to me, it's a little bit of prayer, meditation, exercise, and connection. And coffee. Yes, coffee.
I go over my notes list. I have like a really enlarged notes list, not font-wise, but as in it's very long. And I go through and I check the things off that need to be checked. I send a few more text to the rest of the things that need to be checked off the list. I write a few more notes and then I put on something really fucked up and I feel good. I go to sleep. It's like, really dark TV show, some murder documentary.
And that puts you to sleep?
Yes, it does. Every night.
All right, we just got a little insight.
I know why. I know why it
Do
puts you to
Dateline
sleep.
and all of it.
I figured it out.
She does have the right
I have a
theory.
theory, okay? Because women are obsessed with these murder shows and all the murder content, true crime, and they'd be like, oh, it's because you want to know that you're going to be safe, so you want to make sure it doesn't happen to you. No. It's because it freaks you out so much, it gets you in your animal body, so that you're so present, you can't think of all the other shit you need to do. And so it's the one thing that gets us present.
I like that theory.
Isn't that so good?
Yeah, that's a
I
good
know.
theory.
There's no comedy for me before that.
No laughing. No joy.
Well, I feel like I have to go next then because I'm the opposite. Since I was a little girl, I've been like afraid of the dark, so I go to sleep. I know it's like I've seen like 50 First Dates and Finding Nemo, and like oh my god, it's like because I moved to LA on my own at 16.
That's scary enough.
Yeah, completely. And I didn't know a single person, and I really didn't have friends for many years. So, that's so sad, Nadine. No, but yes, what you said too of for my mental health, I have like a checklist and getting physical and doing all of those different things. But for me, I really am not. Like my husband looked at me like when you said like, what do you do for? I'm not well when I'm not creating.
Yeah.
So even in the smallest ways, I have to find ways to create. And sometimes if it's a break in between projects or different things, maybe that's making me get present and color with my son, or, I mean, he puts me to work. I now make clay statues, I make cardboard box guys, I make like, you name it. But as long as I'm creating, but for me, my real safe haven has been writing. I mean, because it's the one thing we have power of that no one can take from me is that I sit down, I open that computer, I purge what is inside me that needs to come out, and I shut it when I decide, and then I go about my day. So writing really has been a huge, huge part of that relief.
I wake up every morning, and the first thing that I do is pray to God and thank him for all the men he created.
Shelley!
And then after that, I drink an orange Celsius. I will not touch any other flavor. And I don't know. One of my favorite quotes I actually read in Where'd You Go, Bernadette, the Linklater film.
Yeah.
And it's artists who don't create are a menace to society.
Yes.
Yes. So I will say this. I do a lot of menacing on my time off. And I'm still trying to figure that piece out.
Yeah.
So I might come over and make some clay statues with you and your son.
He only makes scary shit though.
if
So
I'm
it's
well-
like Choo Choo Charles, like
Great.
Thomas EXE.
He sounds like my bestie.
Come on over.
All right.
One thing too is helping each other helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we'll help, we barter and we'll be like, I'll help you with this, you help me with that. And that really helps.
Her and I have a weekly exchange that I'm helping her to write, like to just give input, teach formatting, structure things with her writing her first feature, and she gives me like life coaching, basically keeps me sane. So again, it's like these different ways that we can help impact each other and help elevate each other. It's been a gift.
I want to make sure we have enough time for audience questions. Who wants to go first? I see one in the back. Go ahead.
As women that are looking for support of men, what does that support look like for you?
Financial.
I think listening, I think we just want to be heard. Yeah.
And standing up. I think when all the bros get together and they're like, meh, meh, being the dude that's like, nah, that's fucked up. Can't do that. Can't say that. You got to listen to these women. Like, I think that I always love when I see a man stand up for a woman in a bar or something. And it's not that we need it. We're looking for that. It's really just like, I just think it's sick. Every time I'm like, I see you. Like, that's nice. Thank you.
Well, I'll say, and if we want to have a professional choice, it's suggest a female director, writer, producer, actor, continue to elevate our stories and to support us, share about our movies, help us to amplify our voice. But that's for every filmmaker, we all have our part in helping each other's art get seen. That's not just women, but I know there's a lot of people in here who make movies. You could bring several women to the table and let them speak their vision the same as the men.
Hi, I'm Hallie, and being a suicide survivor myself, first and foremost, it is unbelievable to see a badass, strong group of females up here breaking the stigma, talking about such a close-to-home topic. So my mother took her life when I was 15, and standing here 15 years later, I've learned that community has been such an unbelievable way to heal. And Nadine, thank you I'm so excited to see your movie. Question being, what way have you taken cultivating community in your life and with your journey?
I mean, honestly, even just again, that you stood up and shared that's why I made this movie. After every screening, people come up to me and they tell me their stories, and I have so many friends now because of that. I don't meet people on hey, how you doing? What's your name? It's like people come up to me and they tell me some of their deepest truth, and in turn I get to do that too. And then all of a sudden we're having these extremely vulnerable and beautiful conversations, and I'm making these relationships I'll have forever, because I will never forget that you stood up and you just said that. I'll never forget the emails or the messages on Instagram or whatever it is that I receive, but also it's that's what I'm trying to do with this entire organization and with this film is I felt so alone, and I've had that feeling a lot of my life, and I don't want to feel it, and I don't want anyone else to feel it. And I think the isolation and the lack of conversation about this is a big problem. And the more that we talk about it, again, the more people realize there's nothing wrong with them. We all have silent battles that we're fighting, whether you have suicidal ideation or depression or anxiety. I mean, luckily I have all of them. So, you know, that's the truth. It manifests in all of us in different ways. And I think the more that we talk about it, the more we make these meaningful relationships and we lean on each other. And like, that's half of why I created this organization. I wanted to workshops. I wanted to like hangouts and galas and all of the things where we all get together and we're like, let's talk about some real shit and let's make some meaningful relationships, because who wants to be alone in this life, you know?
My husband and I lost one of our best friends to suicide just a few months ago, and everyone kept telling us there's nothing you could have done. And my husband said, I'm not buying into that. I don't believe that's true. I think we failed him as a community. I think we failed him as a village. And he had deep and personal connections and relationships, and oftentimes we kind of go, oh, but I don't know what to do with that. So there's nothing we could have done, but I think there is more we could all do in people's lives. I think that there's stronger ways as a village, as a community, that we can show up, and when we see trouble, to take it incredibly serious, because people don't just cry for help without really deeply needing it.
But also like acts of kindness, like the company that's here at the festival.
Rack, right?
Yes, whatever, the cool briefcases, like we were so into that, but like.
Rack of the Planet?
Yes. Like kindness. Guys, we all have the ability to be kind. You know, we all have the ability to not post a shitty comment and instead say something uplifting and kind to each other, you know? And it's like, that's how you build community. That's how you build, you know, a better place for us all to live. You know, I really wanted to believe social media could be a beautiful place to connect, you know? I really do. And I think I'll hold that hope out and just know that I'll operate that way. Yes. And hopefully if enough of us operate that way, the rest of the people maybe will.
Shelley, you mentioned, you know, what women could accomplish if you didn't have this old programming sort of in the back of your mind. I'm curious, for each of you ladies, what would be like your ideal future self in terms of like the stories you're telling, the projects you're making, the roles you're playing, the films you're directing? Like, is there sort of something you really, really want to do, and maybe the audience here can help make it happen, right? I'm curious for each of you what that would be.
For me personally, I would say one of the things is like the limitations on budgets I have right now. Like, I have some big budget films that I'm so proud of. And it's kind of like, well, we need to see and this last woman who did Marvel didn't do well, so we need to see what you can do with this many films before we'll give you an opportunity with that much money. And it's like, why? If the vision's there, you love the script, you've seen my films, you connected with them, let's go. Like, I'm ready. I've got you on board. Your production company wants to make it. Like, why do I need to go make this other film first? You know, so there is like limitations. I think what used to work for them isn't working the same. So they're really scared to like give you more than is okay for their nerves, you know? And it's like, no, let's do original content. Let's do creative, cool shit. Let's stop remaking 27 of the same movies. Like, I think we can do it.
There's a film I'm writing with Nadine, and we're all producing together. And the story is that I won't be able to play the lead because it has to be a name for financing. So if we got to remove any of those things, I would like to be able to tell my story that I'm trying to tell and not have to do anything because that's what someone's telling me. So I guess I could do what Nadine did.
Yeah, I think it goes back to like what I was saying before, like always trying to prove yourself. I think for me, my future self is like, oh, I want to get really back into it and do something like, you know, back in the day. Oh my God, it sounds so old. Back in the day, like doing things where like, oh, that was like great, or she can do this or whatever, but just getting back into really wanting to tell a story and like doing something maybe a little more raw, or not like, you know, like a romantic comedy or like something like wholesome, but just getting into it and getting back to it, because you can lose that sometimes, I think. So for me, it would be just getting into the raw, gritty stuff, because it sounds fun. I'm not wholesome, thank you.
I think for me that I want to be happy. Man, I just want to be happy, and I want to be happy and satisfied with the projects that I make. And I want to make things that when I have kids, I'm able to show them and be really proud, and them question and be able to have a conversation and a debate about it. And just having this like little tool to open up this big, beautiful conversation with a lot of like learning and growing, not just for them, but mainly I think for me.
For some reason, I'm still stuck on when someone said, "How can they help us?"
Let's get back to that.
I'm gonna go back to that. I learned in media training many, many years ago. Go where you take it where you want to go. You know, tell people about us if you liked what you saw here at the festival and like what we had to say. I think exposure a lot of times is like, you know, I met Max, right? Yeah, we met. He's like, "I've never heard of you before. Where have you been?" You know. We've all been here, and we all have something to say, and some of us just like to entertain. So yeah, just spread the word about when you see something that makes you feel something and you're inspired by it, let's not be quiet.
These are female filmmakers that are inspiring each and every one of you for that positive change, correct?
Good question. Sofia Coppola, always. Bad
Sofia Coppola.
From day one.
Yeah.
It's like the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
But that's also like, it's not like you have like 100 that come to
Right,
mind.
I know.
Which is so messed up. you
Greta
know?
Gerwig, obviously.
Well,
I mean,
Greta,
that's-
obviously, she kind of won the year.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
How does everyone feel about Greta not being nominated?
I thought she handled it. I thought she handled it really well. She was like, I was nominated. My movie is nominated.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, way to like take the high road and just be like, no, my movie is nominated. You're like, that damn high road. Yeah. I'm over it.
I got 6-inch heels on.
Yeah, but she did, like, you know, in that circumstance, but she should have absolutely been nominated, you know, but I thought she handled it well.
She did handle it well, but I do find it infuriating that if your film is nominated for Best Picture, I think you should get a nomination for Best Director. I mean, if you're making something that's so profound that we are all think it's the best movie of the year, you led that ship. You chose every person who was a part of it. You all collaborated. How is that not a nomination for Best Director? But, you know, that, I mean, but I will say even to that, I was a little, like, I think that for all nominations and for men and women, it's not just directors. Like, there's Catherine Hardwicke, and there's so many people that have been doing it for a long time. I know her personally. She's the most badass. Like, you see her the second she walks in, her style, everything about her, it's just like her films. You know exactly who she is. But I will say, Robbie Brenner is a producer who I work with, and she is who produced Barbie and Dallas Buyers Club and so many incredible films. That is a woman who finds other women and she's like, yep, I'm gonna give you this opportunity, I'm gonna elevate you, I'm gonna make you believe in yourself. So it's also like, it goes down to like, there's so many powerful filmmakers, producers, writers, directors that are women, and I love discovering more and more now. Like, I feel like I'm discovering all these new people. What's her name? Who did Past Lives? Celine Song, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And first-time filmmaker, like, I mean, punched you right in the gut with that movie and is incredible. Also, didn't get a nomination for Best Director.
I think we have time for one or two more. Yes.
Hi, I have a question. As a young filmmaker, what is advice you would give your 13-year-old self or your younger self to go out and just direct or filmmake like you guys are doing right, you guys are currently doing?
I was gonna say, what do you need advice for? She's on her second film, 13 years old. Yes. And that, it made me emotional. You can ask them. I said, my 13-year-old self would have never known that I could do that. And the fact that she knows that says something about her mother right there next to her. Yeah. Hell yes, it does. You're doing it. Don't ever stop believing in yourself. I told you this yesterday. Whatever the voice is, the bullshit you hear along the years, don't buy into it. You already know. You're doing it. You're talented. And you're beautiful. And you got it.
I'd like to know what you would tell us. That's what I want.
Well, I think it's also we talked about programming. And so I think it's really incredible that at 13, you are A, already doing it, but B, have this opportunity to hone in on your belief in yourself, your self-esteem, your self-worth within this industry. I mean, you're directing and writing and all of those things. And the one piece of advice that I could give is be careful not to put your identity into your work, because you are worthy as a human being. And so I think oftentimes when we are trying to build a career and we're hustling and then we get the job and all of those things kind of start happening, it's very easy to get validation from that and put your self-worth and your identity in those things. And those things are great. It's amazing because you work really hard to get those things. But I think it's really important, and I know you have a wonderful mom and seemingly great support system. So just keep that North Star and that kind of touchstone of you're worthy regardless, and your work is just kind of the icing on the cake.
I needed to hear that too, though. I mean, that's not just for our 13-year-old self. It's all of us need to remember that too. I have a really big problem with that. Even when you get the yeses, it's like, now what? Now how do I, I think that's beautiful.
I think also take the wins all the time. It's all about the next thing and the next thing. And if you look at the last 5 things you accomplished, you didn't think you were ever going to be able to accomplish those things. And we're always so quick to move on to the next, but it's not enough, and it's not enough, and it's not enough. And it's really unfortunate, because then you look back at the past 10 years and you're like, man, I didn't even get to do anything fun. And you're like, yeah, but you did all these amazing things. And you're like, yeah, but my self-worth is still very low because I haven't patted myself on the back. And you got to stop sometimes and really pat yourself on the back, because you deserve it.
Yeah, celebrating the little wins. I think it gets really easy to become very jaded because the rejection is just so all the time. Just constant. So to be able to accomplish something and celebrate a little win, that's a lesson that I'm still working on. I directed a movie and I still am I did that, but I have a hard time celebrating that. And it's because of past fear of, things not working out, or it's the programming. So I think celebrating the little wins as well.
And don't buy into what everybody says. One of the things I love to do internally is when people give me their negative view, I'll just internally say, that's for you. And it's just a kind way of protecting myself from that and not buying into everything everyone has to say.
One last thing too is break rules. Those rules. Yeah, I know. I know she does.
I don't know about all of you, but I know in particular 2 of you have been doing this since you were children. What advice would you give to Aurora or any other 13-year-olds in the room to ignore those kids at school? The kids that are desperate for her to not do what she's doing, for her to fail.
That's a hard one.
I know.
I feel you. Bullies in school, and the amount of times I heard one, I'm really dyslexic AF, and when I was younger, it was really, really incredibly bad. So being an actor was kind of the last thing you'd want to do, considering all the script reading. And I mean, everything, even before I was on Shake It Up, I was on Big Love and quite a few other things, and it was always just my brother turned around to me one day and he was like, it doesn't really matter if you fail, because nobody's ever going to know that. No one's ever really going to think about that, and so why should that stop you from even trying? Before Shake It Up, I didn't know how to dance, and I got a dance show. I worked my butt off.
I just watched the whole series with my daughter. You were amazing.
Oh, thank you. I think that all the time in my life, I constantly come across things that are just like, yeah, well, you can't do that, you can't do that. And, you know, you're at this age right now where you're fearless, and that's amazing. And do not lose that, because as you get a bit older, you start worrying a little bit more, and things kind of come into your brain. You're like no longer having fun on the monkey bars. Now you're worried you're gonna like break something on the monkey bars. And that's just not the way to live life. Like, you know, this fearless energy that you have right now at this age is some of like the most beautiful parts about you, and to just keep trudging that forward as you keep getting told no and this and that, and who cares? Your self-worth is you. It is not based on anybody else's opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a quote that I always go by, and I say it daily pretty much, but it's none of my business what other people think of me. You do? That's a good one. That's a good mom.
Thank you to Olivia, Rachel, Bella, Shelley, Nadine, to Mammoth Film Festival. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting us.
Thank you for having us.